Book Summary: The Power of Now. Author, Eckhart Tolle. Chapter 1, You Are Not Your Mind. The first chapter introduces the concept of enlightenment as the natural state of oneness with being, the deepest essence of a human being. It begins with the story of the author's own awakening experience, a night filled with suffering when he suddenly realized that I cannot live with myself any longer and recognized two selves within, the one suffering and the one observing it. That moment opened a new reality beyond thought. The main content revolves around the idea that the mind is the greatest obstacle preventing us from achieving this state. The mind, with its ceaseless thoughts and identification with the past or future, creates a false self, the ego, causing humans to live in an illusion of separation. Eckhart Tolle emphasizes that most people are addicted to thinking, to the point where they can no longer stop, and believe they are what they think, a profound illusion. To overcome this, one must learn to observe the mind without judgment, listening to thoughts as an outsider. This method helps create a distance between the true self and the unconscious stream of thoughts, thus opening the door to awakening. The author also encourages practicing presence, that is, a deep awareness of the present moment, as the most direct way to break the mind's dominance. The chapter also explains that emotions are the body's reaction to the mind, a reflection of thoughts in the body. When negative emotions arise and are not recognized, they feed the ego. Recognizing emotions, feeling them in the body without identifying or judging, is the first step to escaping the mind's control and touching the true essence, being. Chapter 2, Consciousness, The Way Out of Pain. Suffering is not inevitable. It does not come from circumstances but from your mind, when you resist what is happening in the present moment. When you say no to the present, you create suffering. But you are not that pain. You are the one observing it. There is an entity living within you, called the pain body. It is a negative energy field accumulated from past painful experiences. The pain body resides in both the body and the mind, and when it encounters situations that remind it of old wounds, it rises, demanding more energy. It feeds itself through your identification with it. But you can stop. You can observe. And in the moment you are present with the pain body, without judgment, without avoidance, you have cut off the energy that sustains it. That presence is consciousness. It is the light that dissolves the darkness. When you resist the present, you fall into psychological time, where the ego exists, where fear arises. But fear can only exist in the mind, never in the present moment. In the present, you are safe. In the present, you are free. Liberating suffering is not an action you do in the future. It is allowing the present to be as it is. When you do that, a miraculous thing happens, peace emerges. Not from outside, but from within, where you have always been. Chapter 3, Moving Deeply into the Now. The present is all you truly have. Everything else, the past, the future, is merely an illusion of the mind. When you say, I was or I will, those are just images in your head. Life never happens in the past or future. It can only happen now. However, your mind does not like this. It lives on psychological time. Thoughts of the past for regret or pride, and of the future for fear or hope. But that time is not real time, it is a psychological form of avoiding the present. When you identify with it, you lose yourself. Moving deeply into the present is not an action you do, but a permission. A letting go. You don't need to search for the meaning of life far away. You don't need to understand the entire journey. You only need to realize that the present moment is the gateway to being, where you are, unconditionally. The author emphasizes, all problems you think you have exist only in the mind, like repetitive stories. But in the present, problems cease. There may be situations to handle, but you are no longer controlled by them. In the stillness of the present, you have freedom. You don't need time to be present. You only need to become aware of this moment. And here, you find true life. Chapter 4, Mind Strategies for Avoiding the Now. The mind cannot live in the present. It feels threatened by the stillness of now. So, it creates time, the past to immerse you in regret, the future to immerse you in anxiety or hope. That is the mind strategy, avoiding the present by leading you astray in psychological time. This chapter points out that the mind constantly denies the present moment. It says, until that happens, I cannot be happy, or if only that hadn't happened. But every such thought only leads you to unhappiness, an endless loop between hope and despair. Eckhart Tolle distinguishes two forms of unconsciousness. Ordinary unconsciousness occurs when you work, interact, live without presence, as if living through a fog. Deep unconsciousness occurs when you are swept away by strong reactions, anger, jealousy, fear, resentment. At that moment, you are no longer yourself, you are that emotion. The only way out is to be fully present. No analysis. No escape. Just feel the now with complete attention. When you do that, unconsciousness dissolves, like darkness under light. The author emphasizes, the greatest inner purpose of life is awakening. Every circumstance is merely a context for that to happen. And when you live fully in the present, the past loses its right to exist, because you no longer carry it into this moment. Chapter 5, The State of Presence. Presence is not something you can understand through thinking. It does not come from trying, analyzing, or imagining. Presence is the state of pure consciousness, where you are no longer controlled by the continuous stream of thoughts. It only happens when you let go and become fully present with this moment. You don't need to try to do anything. Just stop, be silent, and wait in a state of presence, as if you were waiting for something sacred to happen. But that sacred thing is you, the life existing within you. In that stillness, presence emerges. When you are present, you sense a deeper dimension within. A serenity. A knowing without needing to think. In that state, everything becomes alive. Beauty no longer comes from forms, but from the stillness within. True joy arises from presence itself, independent of circumstances. The author guides that to enter the state of presence, you only need to observe yourself. Observe thoughts, emotions, actions, without judgment. This observation is not for analysis, but to help you break free from identification with the ego, and connect with being, the eternal, formless place. You don't become present. You are presence. Just remember that, and you have returned home. Chapter 6, The Inner Body. Your body is not just a physical structure. It is a gateway. A living bridge leading you back to being. But only when you go within it, not through thinking, but through feeling. The author calls this the inner body, a vibrant energy field always present within you, right now. When you bring your attention within the body, you immediately leave the mind and enter presence. You are no longer the one thinking. You become the life that is existing. Breath is the first bridge. When you observe your breathing, without controlling, without trying, you are gradually awakening from the mind's control. Each time you feel the body from within, you are immersing yourself in pure awareness. The author emphasizes that forgiveness is not a moral act, but a liberation from past pain. Forgiveness is to no longer carry the past in the body. And when you are present, you connect with the unmanifested. The invisible aspect of life, where there is no form, no resistance. In that connection, you find profound peace. And the miracle is, even the physical body responds to presence by healing itself, regenerating, strengthening the immune system. Not through effort, but through stillness. Chapter 7, Portals into the Unmanifested. There is a deeper layer of reality, beyond all forms, outside time, neither born nor destroyed. Eckhart calls this the unmanifested, the invisible foundation of all life, where there are no thoughts, no concepts, only pure existence. You cannot go to the unmanifested through thinking. But there are portals leading to it. They are very close, very familiar. They are dreamless sleep, silence, the space between sounds, between two thoughts, between two breaths. They have no form, and that is why they lead you beyond form. The author invites you to go deeply into the body, as a means to feel these sacred gaps. When you don't try to understand, don't try to grasp, but simply feel the stillness, you are opening the door. Space and time, as you usually know them, are not absolute reality. They are illusions created by the mind to navigate the world of form. But in deep presence, you realize, all forms arise from the formless. In that place, you are no longer someone, you are life itself. When you use these portals, not to escape, but to be present, you step into the depth of being. There, you recognize your true nature, without name, without image, just I am. Chapter 8, Enlightened Relationships. A true relationship cannot exist if you are not present. For when you are absent, when your mind is immersed in the past or future, you are not seeing the other person, but the image you project onto them. You are reacting from the ego. Only when you are present can you truly meet the other, not as a role, an image, but as a living human in this moment. Eckhart Tolle points out that most ordinary relationships are governed by dependence, desire, fear of loss, expectations. The ego wants to control, wants the other to fill the void within. But this leads to conflict, disappointment, suffering. An enlightened relationship begins with acceptance. You don't try to change the other. You no longer react automatically to their behavior. You allow them to be themselves, in the silent space of presence. The author further notes that to reach this level, you need to let go of the relationship with yourself, that is, let go of the self you carry, thoughts about yourself, the past, identity. When the self is no longer the center, you no longer see yourself as someone needing protection or validation. Then, true love can emerge, non-possessive, unconditional, fearless. In presence, every relationship becomes a path to awakening. Chapter 9, Beyond happiness and unhappiness there is peace. Happiness comes and goes. So does unhappiness. Both are waves on the surface of life, impossible to hold, impossible to rely on. If you seek yourself in them, you will always feel lacking or fear losing them. The author invites you to look deeper, to a layer of consciousness beyond the duality of good and bad. There, you no longer ask, am I happy? But instead, am I at peace? Peace does not depend on circumstances. It does not waver when things change. It does not come from things going your way. Peace arises when you accept the impermanence of life, no longer resisting, no longer clinging. Eckhart calls this the higher good, a deeper state, where you live in harmony with life, no longer manipulated by the ego. You realize, what happens is less important than your inner response to it. From that foundation, true compassion emerges, not as pity, but as a deep, silent connection with all that is living. In that compassion, you no longer see anyone as other. The chapter ends with a broader vision. As more people live from the depth of presence, a new order of reality will emerge, where consciousness is no longer dominated by the ego. The transformation of humanity begins there, not by changing the world, but by awakening from illusion. Chapter 10, The Meaning of Surrender. There is a power greater than any action, greater than any idea, that is surrender. It is not surrendering to circumstances, but surrendering to this moment. No more resistance. No more saying no to what is. Surrender does not mean you give up. It is not passive, not resignation. It is a profound inner process, where you let go of the mind's resistance and step into the flow of the present. In that place, you become still, but not weak, you are strong, for you are no longer pulled by unconscious reactions. Eckhart Tolle encourages you to look directly at life's difficulties, illness, loss, crisis, not as enemies, but as doors. They invite you to become more deeply present, to no longer identify with circumstances, but to recognize the unchanging within. You don't need to wait for things to change to be at peace. You can choose presence now. In unconditional acceptance of this moment, you find freedom not from action, but from letting go. The final chapter concludes with a simple yet profound affirmation: true power comes from living in the present. And from that place, you no longer need anything to be yourself, you are freedom. You are life. You are peace.